Did you know you can take a portrait like this and make it look like this only by adding a curved reflector? I'll show you how to do it on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. If you've got a question, just go to askdavidbergman.com and submit that form on the site. I just might pick your question to answer on a future show. As you probably also know, I'm on the road again this year with Luke Combs as his official tour photographer. You can join me for my Shoot from the Pit live concert photography workshop, where I'll teach you everything I know about photographing concerts, sports, and really action of any kind. And then you get to shoot the entire concert in an arena or stadium that night. I've got workshops in 30 cities across the United States, New Zealand, Australia, and all across Europe, and I hope to see you at one of them. Go to shootfromthepit.com for more info and to sign up right now. Today's question was sent in by Luis G, and he wants to know, Hi David, what's the best way to set up a curved reflector like the Wescott Eyelighter? Why is it better than a standard pop-up reflector? And should you use one large softbox or a separate light source like a strip box directly above to focus the light being reflected? Thank you. That's a great question, Luis. Thanks so much for sending that in. Now, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you might know that I recently bought all new Wescott strobes for my studio. Now, in addition to the new lights and modifiers, I also picked up the Eyelighter, which, as Luis says, is a curved reflector. Now let me explain how and why it works, and then I'll show you some examples from a photo shoot I did earlier today. Now the Eyelighter's actually been around for a very long time. A guy named Larry Peters invented it back in the 1980s when he was making them by hand and selling them one at a time out of his house. In 2010, Wescott brought him in, and they've been producing the Eyelighter ever since. The current model is version 3, which just came out in the last year or so. The biggest differences with the new model is that it's much quicker to set up and also comes with all 3 reflector colors. You used to have to buy those separately, and they're very easy to change out during a shoot. Now, the main use for the Eyelighter is as a low-angle fill light reflector for a headshot. The large curve gives you light that fills in the shadows under your subject's eyes, nose, and chin, and wraps around evenly to the sides of their face as well. It's usually considered more flattering to fill in those shadows when making a headshot. Also, the curved shape gives you a pleasing catchlight. A catchlight is the light or lights that you see reflected in your subject's eyes. It gives your subject life. If you don't have that, they really just don't feel like they're sparkling with life. If you want to try and reverse engineer a photograph, you can usually figure out what lights or reflectors the photographer used by looking at the catchlights in their eyes. When using the Eyelighter, the curve wraps around their iris and brightens the eyes up like a high-end beauty portrait. It's really a cool look that you'll see in a minute. I set up my Eyelighter for the first time earlier today, and it took me about 5 minutes to set up. I'm sure I'll be faster next time because this was literally my first time setting it up. Now, one thing to note, once it's up, the Eyelighter is big. That's a good thing because it gives you a softer reflection and it has more room to wrap all the way under and around your subject's face. With the old model, since it took longer to set up and break down, I heard that it was actually easier to just leave it in one piece and put it in the back of a truck or an SUV to transport it around locally. Now you can pack it up in a couple minutes and put all the pieces in the included carrying bag. It's super convenient. Now, after I was set up today, I brought Emily into the studio so I could put the Eyelighter to the test and answer Luis's question. By the way, I'll put Emily's TikTok in the description down below. She's a young actress, singer, voiceover artist, and comedian who you should definitely go follow. Now, as for my gear, I'm using the Canon EOS R5 with the RF 24-70 2.8 lens. I was shooting at ISO 100, 1/200th of a second shutter speed at f5.6. I'm shooting my lights on manual power and don't remember exactly what I was at. I think the key light was at about an 1/8 power, but it really doesn't matter. I just adjusted it until it looked good. For this shoot, I started with just one light, the Westcott FJ400 in a big Octa-L softbox. I had it above the camera and pointed down at Emily. The background doesn't really matter. I could have lit it separately if I wanted to, but it just doesn't have any impact on our subject and not really the point of this conversation. Now with just the one light, you can see the shadows under her eyes, nose, and chin. It's not really the best looking light, and Emily deserves better. So I then added in the Eyelighter to give me a traditional clamshell look. That's light above and below like an open clamshell. Now, it's recommended to set this up that the middle of the eyeliner be about 30 inches from your subject. That's really about an arm's length away, so I just had her check for me every once in a while. Then the main light should be backed away a bit more, enough, depending on its size, so that you hit it at the right angle to reflect the light back up into your subject. And there are two ways you can tell if you've set it up right. First, you can look at the eyeliner from your model's perspective, and when the entire unit is being hit with the light, then you're good to go. You can also use modeling lights if your strobes have them, which most do, and just look to see that the reflection is hitting your subject as you adjust that eyeliner. Now, once I got everything in place, you can immediately see the difference in the shadows and how much nicer it looks compared to the shots without the reflector. And if you zoom in and really look closely at Emily's eyes, you can see that cool wraparound look of the eyeliner in her eyes. Now, like I said earlier, version 3 comes with different colors, silver, white, and gold, which they actually call sunlight, but I'm going to say gold. Silver is the most commonly used for under the chin reflection. It's very reflective and gives you a bright and specular fill that will light up your subject. It's really good for beauty or glamour shots. You can also switch to white or gold by just setting up the silver first and then laying on the double-sided piece on top and sticking it down with the already attached Velcro. It's really easy to do. Now, white is much more soft and subtle and might be best for things like corporate headshots, where you want the light to be flattering but not so glamorous. And then the gold side just warms up the fill light, so it might feel like it's sunset light. Here are all three colors compared side by side so you can see the difference. Now, Luis asked about using a standard pop-up reflector. That certainly works, and that's the way most of us have done headshots for a very long time. However, now that I've used the eyeliner, I really like the wraparound effect of it better than a flat reflector. And the catchlight isn't quite as nice with that flat reflector. Now, maybe it's just because the one I was using is so big, but it was also a bit of a hassle to deal with. It can be challenging to get those things in the right position because they don't hold their shape very well. Here's the difference between the shot with the eyeliner versus the round reflector, and here are the catchlights when you zoom in on the eyes. Now, Luis asked also about using a separate light from above hitting the reflector. I guess the thought process is that maybe you can control it more and get more efficient light if you have a dedicated strobe for the eyeliner. Now, first I tried it with the included standard reflector on a second FJ400 overhead. Once I got it into place, I shot a frame with just that overhead light. The challenge here is that it's really tough to angle it so that it only hits the eyeliner without also hitting Emily. I really don't want a super hard light from above to corrupt the beautiful soft light I've got coming from my softbox. So while it helped with the shadows, I wouldn't attempt to shoot this way on a regular basis. Luis also asked about using a strip box up there, so I tried that as well. Now, this is the 1x3 from Wescott, and I added a grid to try to keep the light from spilling onto Emily. It's certainly softer than the other version, but I still had the same issue, as you can see by this image, of just the overhead light. It's really hitting her too much from overhead. But then I had an idea that I thought might work. Maybe if I back up the strip box so it's behind her a bit, I can have it work double duty as both a hair light while also lighting up the reflector. However, when Emily looked down at the eyeliner, she could see that the overhead light was lighting up the sides, but the middle area was pretty dark. That's because she was blocking a lot of the light from hitting the center section, which kind of defeats the purpose. Here's the overhead by itself, and now with the big softbox added in. It's definitely a great hair light, which I love that look, but most of the fill light is still coming from my big softbox out front. I'm not sure the overhead really adds anything to the eyeliner in this case. I also tried one more thing since I've done this before. I used the strip box underneath as a fill. Now, I like this option because I can control how much fill I get simply by changing the power level. It gives me the most control. The downside, just like using another overhead light, is that you need to have a second light and modifier to do it. And you still don't get that nice curved catchlight or wraparound fill that you get from the eyeliner. So after trying all these different scenarios, I found the best option was simply the one big softbox with the eyeliner for fill. It's a simple setup that really brings out your subject's eyes and fills in all the shadows. For beauty and glamour shots, you can't go wrong. No need to overcomplicate things by adding more lights unless you want a hair light or other separation from the background. Luis, I hope that helps you. Do any of you own the eyeliner? What do you think of it? This was really my first time using it, and I think it's going to be on every headshot I make from now on. If you don't have a curved reflector, what are you using for fill? Are you using fill at all? Let me know down in the comments. Also, do me a favor, like, subscribe, click that little bell icon so you'll get notifications when new photo shows come out all week long from the folks here at Adorama TV. Check out my Shoot from the Pit workshops and hope to see you on the road sometime this year. Thanks for watching. I'll be back next time with another question right here on Ask David Bergman.